Wendy Jelbert is a professional artist, author and teacher who works in pastels, oils, acrylics, inks and watercolors. Wendy will show you some of her favorite techniques and let you into some of her secrets in the wonderful medium of line and wash.
Hello and welcome to my studio. This is the powerhouse where it all seems to happen. I organise my talks and my teaching and my paintings for galleries. Now I want to share with you some of the ideas I have, and let's start by looking at my sketchbook. The importance of a sketchbook is to put down lots of ideas and experiment with those ideas. Here I've used a black and white photograph and worked from it in wash and pen and put down lots of ideas that I can change the different aspects of it for future paintings. This is a detail sketch in a waterproof ink of an old doorway denoting chains and grasses and old wood and bricks. I've also done quite a detailed sketch too in watercolours of the vines, and both of these are a French scene, and this is just in case I wanted to put this around the door themselves. Here is a detail of a sunflower in a non-waterproof ink, and when you put water up to your drawing it runs in all different directions and gives you a marvellous sense of tone. I've done all details of the centre, the leaves and the seed head of the sunflower. These two dandelion heads were painted in with watercolours and outlined a little bit with ink, and here I've done ink drawing over the watercolour wash and colour notes with blobs of watercolour instead of colour notes in writing. This is a pen drawing of a sea scene, but why I've left this blank is that because the tide was kept changing and it's very difficult to capture, we took a series of photographs and backed it up with a detailed drawing of the windmill and pub and buildings behind, but they did marry together in the end. These Greek cats were great fun to do, but they were infuriating because they kept moving, and the only way that you can capture the whole thing is quick sketches. The tone was created by washing up against the non-waterproof ink with water. A sketchbook shouldn't really be just for future paintings, but a diary and a trip up memory lane. And here I've got maps and all kinds of little bits and pieces, even tickets and wine labels. Well, if you haven't started a sketchbook, do start one now. It's such fun, and you'll plot your progress, and you could fill it up with all kinds of memorabilia. Right, now let's start again on another project, my Pandora's box. This is my treasure trove full of little gems with different surfaces. A piece of wood, corn on the cob, a shell, and for the project we're going to do, the surface of a feather. I've placed the feather on my sketchbook and I'm doing a quick pencil sketch. I always find that this is much easier because you can rub it out afterwards and you've got a really good guideline. Right, we're filling this bit in like that, placing this bit there. Just got that in through there. Right, it's as simple as that. Right, this is the waterproof ink, and I'm going to do the centre first and slightly tapering it. There we go. Putting a little bit of shadow around the structure. Now what you do need to really take on board is that you mustn't make this flat because it's slightly curved, and we put a bit of shadow on the edge. So it gives you a much more realistic look to it. And then we'll block in the main shape. This bit there. Now when you're doing something that's fairly rigid and it's got lots and lots of the same kind of line, miss a few out and then re-emphasize it somewhere else so that your eye will naturally feed into all this uniform pattern. But because you've lifted the pen and you've got just a few lines, it will read over the surface as the whole surface has got this kind of rigid design. And then we'll do the other side. Leave out some, put some in. And then I'm going to put the dark patterning on there. It's quite dense really, but fades as it comes down towards the centre. Dark bit there. And there's a few tufts here. I don't think I'll bother with the shadow. A few more markings on this side. Little dark markings on this side. And to emphasize that kind of curl. A couple of lines. It is rather darker at the top here, so I can intensify that tone there. There. Now this is another drawing, but it's identical in that there's the feather, but I've drawn it in a non-waterproof ink. Can you see the way it's running? It's absolutely gorgeous. Just run the water up against it and it swooshes out. And of course the more pen line you put on, the darker it'll become when you wash the water over. There we are. Simple as that it is, and that is a non-waterproof ink. For our next exercise, we're going to do a mushroom in different ways, and I'm using a ruling drawing pen here using Quink ink Neat, and we're going to use more water with it as the exercise goes on. Now I've watered down some Quink ink. Oh, it's quite a lot of water in it, and I'm going to do the background fairly quickly because the Quink ink separates with water into blues and yellows, so I'm putting quite a lot of wash into the background. Now this shows up the edge of the mushroom. Lovely light halo there. And then I'm going to bring another wash into the foreground, giving a nice curved effect there. So it's dark against light, light against dark. A little bit more ink into this time so that I can get the gills nice and dark. And perhaps put a little bit of white paper onto the gills. Now this edge is really quite important. Can you see this edge coming towards you now? It needs to be kept clear of any ink. Round we go. There. Bit more water. A little bit more water here. And the top of the mushroom has got a tiny dimple in it, and we've got another wash coming down here, giving it a bit of a shadow. Bit more water. And some shadow underneath. This is reflecting the shape of the mushroom, and it gives a little bit more structure. And a tiny bit of dark back underneath here. With the water-soluble pen, I've drawn in quite deeply here and allowed more white paper so that the tone is less there. And I'm going to dip this into water and wash over the surface. So we've got a variety of tonal areas, bringing that colour over here. It's quite quick, this is, round there, and the body of the mushroom. And then we can lift some of this colour and put it into the shadowed area. So I can lift this colour here and run the paint around the colour, around this area, so it bleeds the colour out around there. Lifting a little bit more of this colour and allowing it to become the shadow area. A little bit of shadow around here, dimple bit just across this top bit there. This mushroom is decided on the lines and the very, very tight massed drawing for the tonal effect. The beauty of this monochrome is that it's done in sepia ink, and it's the amount of water you use with it, and it gives the most lovely old-fashioned sepia photographic effect. This is a bold sketch using a brush pen, and this is a very similar one to a felt tip pen. I did this gentle outline of the mushroom with a steel nibbed pen, waterproof, and then with a gentle washes of watercolour filled the colour effects in. This quink ink mushroom was washed in with water, and as it slowly dries, the ink separates into various colours, but notice this area, the beautiful yellow bloom that's come out of it.